Right now, a future patient is online reading a Google review left for your practice 2 years ago. A review you probably don't even know about. You probably don't even know who left it. And they just made a decision to go to a different practice because of that review. If you don't have a process in place for your review management and your online reputation, that needs to stop today because you don't have the opportunity to then control or write the story or be able to put your best face forward in front of those new patients. Most people look at review management and online reviews as a marketing task, but in reality, it isn't a marketing task. It's an operations task because if you don't have a process in place to collect those reviews, to request those reviews, and to review the reviews, you're going to get yourself in trouble. It has come down to you could have 1 star less than your competitors in not only medical practices, but in business. And potential clients and potential patients are going to go with the other guy because that 1 star review difference is making them look like they're a better option. And at the end of the day, you may have a person that's responsible for those online reviews. Maybe they look at the new ones, maybe they respond to the old ones. But what is missing there is the opportunity to improve your practice overall so that you automatically are getting 5 star reviews and that your patients are talking about you both online and offline. What your online review actually gives you is the opportunity to see from the outside in how you're performing as a practice and as an organization. And it will leave clues about the experience that people are having that you don't have time to monitor. But if you don't have someone looking for those clues, you can't tune into them and actually make adjustments that are going to make you stand out from your competitors, not only online, but as they start to refer other people organically. And it gives your referral partners the opportunity to go and understand who you are from a deeper perspective. The practices that actually win with online reputation don't do it from a marketing perspective. They do it because they've built an operational system not only around creating those online reviews, but dissecting the information, the valuable information that those reviews contain. In today's episode, we're going to talk about some of those things so that you can put it into practice for your organization and your practice so that you can start to win this game. Now, if you haven't tuned in before, I'm Alisa Connor, and I work with organizations, specifically specialty medical practices and professional service organizations, to ensure that the marketing investment that they're making is actually delivering results. So if you are paying lots of money to an agency or you have a team that does marketing, but those aren't adding up to people booking on the calendar or clients coming into your office, stay tuned because every week I show up here to connect the dots between the things that you're doing and that your team is doing to ensure that it is actually leading to additional patient and client growth. So let's talk a little about the star rating. And when I pulled some statistics about the Google star rating and what it actually means in the perspective of search, anything below 4 stars, 80% of the audience that would become potential patients or potential clients, they've tuned out. If you have under 4 stars, you might as well either really dig in to fixing your online reputation, which is more challenging than doing it right the first time. I'm just going to give you a heads up on that, but it's not impossible. But diving in to fix your online reputation or try to keep it from ever going below 4 stars should really be your goal. Because once it hits 4 stars, you are not going to show up on the first page of Google. You're not going to show up favorably even on the second or third page. And you're most definitely not going to attract new patients or clients if they're seeing that you have under 4 stars. And I would even argue a little bit with the statistic and say it's probably closer to 4.7 stars at this point because people have figured out how to effectively manage your online reputation. If you don't have that problem and you're not below 4 stars, maybe you have a 4.8 star rating, you still might be missing the boat. And here's why. Because if most of your reviews or a good chunk of your reviews are complaining about things like long wait times or crabby staff members or having challenges with paying their bill or being charged incorrectly, if that is something that is continually showing up in your reviews, people pay attention to that. And if you're not paying attention to that and you're not seeing that in the reviews and you're just having someone automatically reply, "Hey, thanks for your review. Oh, sorry, we're not happy," you're missing the boat because you're not addressing the challenges that are being brought to your attention, not only online, but within your organization. And if you're not addressing the challenges, you're losing patients and you're losing clients. And it's going to be a lot harder to revamp that story once it's out there. And so your reviews are telling a deeper story about your practice and about your office. And if you're not paying attention, you're the one that it's going to hurt in the long run. And it doesn't just come down to stars. It comes down to the actual story and the narrative that people are saying and speaking about your office when you're not in the room. Most practices have 3 gaps when it comes to online reviews. And it's easy to fall into one of these gaps or into multiple gaps because you're busy. You're busy running a practice, you're busy running an office, and online reviews and customer reviews might not be your priority. However, it should be a priority of someone in your organization. And here's why. The first gap that organizations and practices have with online reputation is velocity. So they're either going to go in spurts where they have everybody doing a review and they're really building up their thing, and then no reviews. And this often happens because there's a push to get reviews. And maybe it's when you're first setting up your online business page, or you have had a poor review. So now you're trying to rebuild your reputation, or you just never thought reviews were important. And so you didn't put any effort into it. And so you take the initiative to make sure that people are leaving your reviews, and you do a big push for that. But then at the end of the push, nobody leaves reviews because nobody's asking. There's no process in place to ensure that patients or clients are consistently being reminded to leave a review. There's no filtering. So if they do leave a review, they're not asked another 10 times or whatever that might be. Problem with this is if you have that push and it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, that's all dated. And so now nobody really knows what's happening in your current practice or organization because all of your reviews are really old. And they don't know if things are being run the same, things are being run differently, because there's nothing current. And so if you aren't consistently asking for reviews from patients and clients, it's really hard to keep your star rating up, and it's really hard to control that story because all of the chapters of the story were written 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So when it comes to ensuring that you don't fall into the velocity gap, you need to have a plan and a process and a structure in place to not only initiate having people leave reviews for you, but that someone is going in and monitoring those reviews to ensure that they are on the up and up. They're shining a bright light on your current practice/organization. And that if there's a challenge, you address it immediately, not 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line. Because at that point, that person is so mad, they're not only not going to come back and be a patient of yours, but they have probably told their mother's brother, sister, and everybody in between what a horrible experience it was. So your name is being tarnished every minute that goes by that you're not addressing those reviews, which leads me to gap number 2, response behavior. And most often, people either don't respond to reviews at all. This is what I see most often when I'm doing a review of practices, is they have a bunch of reviews out there and they either, 1, don't look at the reviews, or 2, if they're looking at them, everybody is responded to like a robot. There's a lot of robotic options out there that allow you to just say, hey, thanks for a review. And what people don't realize is that every time a review is responded to, that boosts your ranking. However, when it's not personalized or it doesn't feel like it's come from a human, especially in the world of AI, that is actually tarnishing your reputation a little bit because people can see that. They can see your response and they're like, they didn't even respond to this, or they for sure didn't respond to this negative review in an appropriate way. Because if there's no resolution about that negative review and it's just some random, oh, we're sorry you're not happy, anybody can do that. That's not personalizing an experience for your patients or your clients. And so having, again, a process in place to address any kind of review behavior in a personalized and hospitable way is going to drive people reading the reviews and making a decision on whether or not they're going to come to your office more likely to choose you because it looks like you actually care about the people that come to your office and you've not just assigned some random robot to automatically reply to reviews. One last thing I want to mention on this specific gap is that silence is an answer. Silence, meaning you're not responding, really comes across as we don't care about our patients, we don't care what you think. And nobody has the luxury of having that attitude anymore because of the world that we live in. And most decisions, if you missed my previous episode, which was 2 weeks ago, and I talked about how future generations are making decisions about everything from healthcare to shopping, their decision is made before they ever click on your website. So if you missed that episode, I will link it above and you can go check it out. But it was over 40%. So if you are not responding, people are paying attention to that. And your silence is hurting your reputation and your brand. And you want to make sure that you can avoid that and that you come across as the caring and patient-focused organization that you are. Now, the third gap where people get stuck is just focusing on one platform. Typically, it's Google reviews. Well, what happens is that you have most often other platforms out there that people are leaving reviews on, whether that's Yelp, ZocDoc, Facebook, it could be anywhere. But if you're not monitoring all of those areas, you could have great Google reviews, but everybody on Facebook is saying you suck. And nobody's addressed it because you set that Facebook page up and nobody goes over there because you have an agency that just posts for you and they don't handle your reviews. You're in really big trouble because every sector of your audience is going to go to a different site for their information. I did an assessment for an orthopedic practice, and when we looked at their Google reviews for the docs, they looked great. They all had 5 stars. The doctors, everybody loved the doctors. The problem is that their organization Google reviews were not great. And worse than that, their Facebook reviews were horrible. And nobody was addressing any of those things. So the doctors thought everything was fine because they had 5-star reviews for their doctor profile. However, when we went and looked at the organizational profile, both from the Facebook and the Google perspectives, and then I showed them that not only do you have inconsistency here, but then I pulled up Yelp. Well, nobody had looked at Yelp in years. They had a 2.7-star rating on Yelp that nobody ever looked at. Now, if anybody's going to Yelp, which Yelp is one of the first things that comes up when you start to search for anything, and nobody's addressing that situation, you have a problem on your hands. It doesn't matter how many Google reviews you have that are great or how many Google reviews that a doctor might have that are great, if none of those things are showing up because all of the marketing is coming from the organization. Do you see the challenge here? Is if you are just narrow focus and blindly looking in one review perspective, you could have a lot of reputation issues that just haven't even been brought to the surface. The challenge then becomes when you have new prospective patients or clients that are coming to look at you as their option, they don't know who to believe because over here on Facebook, it says you suck, but you look at the doctor profile and it says you're great. It tarnishes the trust level and you don't have the luxury again to have that sitting out there unattended. So instead of looking at reviews as, hey, we have a 5-star rating or we have a 2.7-star rating, what's more beneficial to an organization or a practice is to look at them as though you're a detective. And you're looking at your reviews from the perspective of them telling a story. It gives you an opportunity to differentiate yourself and the way that you move forward from other practices and other businesses in your same industry. Most people are going to look at reviews and go, yeah, 4.9 stars, great. But what they're missing is the opportunity to even raise that review star or that review experience to 5 stars and above. Because if you're just taking the status quo as, yeah, they're leaving us 5-star reviews, but there's no depth to those, or there are problems being communicated that your organization is not paying attention to, those are areas that you can hone in and fix, and you're going to have even happier patients or customers. The best way to approach this is to look at your reviews and categorize them into things like complaints. Like, are there complaints that are happening when it comes to hold time or the way that the phone is being answered? Or is it really hard to schedule? Or are there really long wait times? What do those complaints look like? And you could call that as initial access points or patient access points to, it's the immediate access to get help or to come into the practice. And you could have one category there and then create an operational process around how to fix those things. Then the next thing that you want to look for is communication complaints. This addresses things like feeling like you being rushed by the doctor or not having questions answered or billing challenges that were not addressed properly or whatever that might be. And those are a little bit deeper, and typically items in this category are going to take a little bit longer to fix because it's going to require additional conversations and additional processes. So I'm not saying each of these needs to be addressed immediately, but when you're looking at things like this, you probably want to look at it from the perspective of immediate fix, long-term fix, and here's some things that we can do after we get the initial things fixed. Because when you're reading your reviews and you're looking at how you're showing up, you are probably going to be surprised at what people say. And more so, you're probably going to feel a little panicked that there's a lot of work to do. And that's okay, because every business evolves, whether that's through employee transitions or even organizational transitions. Everything evolves. And a lot of times the focus is on that transition and not how it's affecting the outside perspective of your organization or your practice. The third area that should be broken out separately from kind of the administrative and communication challenges is billing. The area that receives the most complaints in a medical practice, honestly, is usually billing. It's either scheduling or billing. And the reason is that people don't want. The reason billing is such a challenge is because most people don't want to talk about money, and there's not a clear communication process around the billing system, especially in healthcare, because there's so many moving parts and pieces when it comes to billing, including insurance and deductibles and what percentage of deductibles. There's a lot of moving pieces there that people outside of the medical industry don't necessarily have a strong grasp on. And if you don't have a strong communication process around all of those different perspectives, there can be confusion, there can be reluctance in paying the bill because there's miscommunication around how much they should pay. There's long wait periods because they're waiting for their insurance to get the billing through. There's a lot of factors. But if you can create a process that prepares patients for what's to come, and gives them a brief education around how that will work with their specific situation, the chances that you're going to have people leaving reviews about your billing situation are much, much less. And if you do have challenges and you see that review right away, you know that's a problem you need to address immediately. And you're going to know who that person is because you have somebody monitoring that on a regular basis, not 3, 6, 9, 12 months later. And then the last area to look at, which this is actually a favorite, is all the nice things, all the kudos that people are leaving about your practice. What are they saying? What are the things you're doing right? What are the things you can hone in and make sure that you're doing that even more effectively so that more of those reviews are coming through and shining that bright light on the things you're doing well? And so it's not all negative. You're not always looking for the negatives. You're also looking for the positives because sometimes just a little tweak can make that positive even more impressive and encourage people, patients, clients, to go and leave more reviews that align with that praise. But the nice thing about setting up these categories is then you have a roadmap for whoever is managing your online review process, they have a roadmap. They know there's 4 categories that things go into. It's, initial contact, it's administrative and communication challenges, it's billing, and it's the yay, kudos, you're doing a great job. And so when they are looking at those reviews on a regular basis, so maybe it's weekly, maybe it's daily, it just depends on how many people come through your practice and how many reviews you get. They have a system so they know how to address challenges and who they should go to have them addressed. And it shifts from being reputation management to being reputation engineering, because you are then able to engineer a process around the challenges and also the kudos. And you know that you can reward people if they are being mentioned again and again in a review. Like, for example, if you have a physician's assistant who is regularly called out in reviews as an excellent resource to your practice, then call them out and let them know they're doing a great job so that they're not looking for another position, or they're not feeling down on their luck, and they're actually feeling appreciated and recognized by the organization. So if you're a regular subscriber to the show, you know that I include an action plan for every episode that I do. And if you're not a regular subscriber, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button and become one so you don't miss any of the weekly updates that I give on customer experience and patient experience in both specialty medical and professional service businesses. This week is no different. We have a proactive reputation system that we're going to put in place. And so this is essentially your homework. The first thing to do is to ensure that you actually have a system in place to collect reviews. And this can be automated. This can be somebody in your office specific position, but you want to make sure that within a certain amount of time that every patient or client that's in your office gets the opportunity to leave you a Google review or whatever site you decide to focus on, and they get a link to that page. Now, what you cannot do is influence their review. Google says, no, not allowed. So you can't say, leave us a 5-star review here, but you can say, thank you so much for visiting our office. We were so grateful to have you choose us. We would love to get your review, and here's the link to do that over on Google. What happens here is that practices and businesses only request a review one time. Well, patients, just like everyone else, are busy. And so they might see that text or that email the first time and go, I'll do that later. And then they're never reminded again. So you might want to add into your process the opportunity to send them another reminder. I wouldn't get crazy with it, because if people are going to do it, one reminder after the first reminder is probably enough. Otherwise, they're going to get annoyed. You could even phrase that second opportunity as, hey, we know life gets busy. It's so important that we ensure you had a good experience with our practice. We would love to get your review over here and hear how things went so that we can ensure that we are operating at our highest level and that our patients are happy, or something like that. Sometimes all people need is a personal invite and a reminder that this is really important to ensure that things keep rolling. Does that mean everybody's going to do a review for you? No, but it will increase the likelihood that they will leave you a review, and it will be positive. So the second step of this protocol is somebody has to be responsible for this, and it has to be somebody that is able to categorize the reviews into those 4 categories that we mentioned above, and also take responsibility for responding to reviews, both positive and negative. And most importantly, responding to the ones that are negative promptly and in a way that makes that patient or client feel like they are being heard and that their challenge will be addressed as quickly as possible. But the other thing that responsible party needs to be looking for is the things that are being said over and over again, because that will become the operation challenges that need to be addressed by the organization, so that it's not only happening in the review process, but that those challenges are never an issue and they never show up in reviews again. That's ultimately the goal, is that if there's challenges being commented on again and again, It's a signal that there's a challenge going on in your organization and it needs to be addressed so that you don't have a poor reputation out there and you don't have people saying negative things about you before you even get the chance to get in front of them and show them who you are. And this leads us to step number 3, which is every 90 days, you look at that tally sheet of those 4 categories of communication, initial interaction, the kudos, you're doing a great job, and the billing areas, and you see which one is having the most challenges, what things are being said again and again, and you create a plan after that 90 days to address even just one of those areas and start to get it under control and refine it and optimize that process so that you don't have people that are leaving not only negative reviews, but speaking to their friends, their family, and other people that could be referrals to you in a negative light. You want to make sure that you're addressing those things and that you have a plan and a process in place that allows you to address those things. So your 3 actions this week are to review your last 30 Google reviews and categorize them by theme. Not by star rating, not by yippee skippy, we have 5 stars and nobody said anything, but what is actually being written in the reviews and put them into one of the categories of initial communication, billing, administrative challenges, or other communication challenges, and kudos. And then analyze those things to see what operational challenges are lying beneath the surface for those reviews. Your second action for this week is to go Google your practice and see all of the different review platforms that show up, because they're all going to show up whether you are paying attention to them or not. This is really important for you to go and take a look at who's saying what and where they're saying it. And if they don't show up and you know that you have, for example, a Facebook page or a business listing that somebody's forgotten about, but you know it's out there, go and look at those too. Because you need to make sure that your overall online reputation is consistent across all of those platforms. And if it isn't, then you have a little work to do on those platforms. And some of that work might be trying to improve your reputation on certain platforms, which it can be a little tricky. I'm just going to put it out there. Depending on the platform, it can be a little tricky. And then the last step is to time how long it takes for somebody to respond to a review. Do you have a process in place? Do you have somebody that's their job and they're consistently able to do that and they're not overwhelmed with other responsibilities so that those are being left on the, for someone else to take care of? Or are they being ignored? Like, what's the process? And if you don't have a process in place, that should be one of the first places that you start to implement the things that we talked about in this episode. So if you don't know where to start and you're like, I think our online reputation is a mess and I don't even know where to look, and we probably have things everywhere and nobody in our office has time to even do this analysis, I can step in and help. I offer a reputation diagnostic that will give you the insights that connect your operational challenges to what's happening online, so you know if there's a disconnect there and you get a clear picture of where to start. If you are interested in that, you can follow the link below this video and book a quick call. If that is something that would be helpful for your organization, click the link below this video and we'll get going on that diagnostic right away. In the meantime, thanks so much for showing up today and for sticking with me in this video and future podcasts. I would love to know your biggest review challenge if you want to put it in the comments. In the meantime, if you want to hit like or share this with a friend, I would appreciate it. And I will see you next week. Take care, stay safe, and be well. See you soon.